Welcome to Season 4 of the Funding Love Adoption Podcast with Mal and Kate.
We are two adopted moms that seek to love, support, and elevate all corners of the adoption triad while running our nonprofit, Funding Love.
Funding Love creates post-adoption experiences that strengthen bonds, build community, and restore people.
And the Funding Love Adoption Podcast exists to bring education and awareness to those both inside and outside the adoption community.
So pour yourself your favorite beverage and pull up a chair because everyone has a seat at our table.
Together, we are Funding Love,
the podcast.
Welcome back to Season 4 of the Funding Love Adoption Podcast. This whole season, we are talking about pre-adoption journey, before you get matched and before finalization. And today we have another great episode for you.
That's right. Talking about funding adoption. This is episode 5 that we are doing in Season 4. And I think this is a big worry for a lot of families, having the call to adoption, having that pull. How do we fund this? And what does that look like when we say funding, that means paying for it. Where are we going to come up with the money to pay for this adoption? Because unfortunately, it's not cheap to adopt. In a perfect world, it would be, but in a perfect world, there wouldn't be adoption. So anywho.
That is true. I really do love that you said that. But regardless of which avenue you choose, whether it's domestic infant, international especially, and even foster to adopt situations come with a price tag.
They do.
And even sometimes kinship adoptions or step-parent adoptions because you got to pay an attorney. So there's always going to be some sort of cost involved with adoption. So how do you pay for it?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So there are many ways that I know of that I'm just going to spitball out there that are ways to adopt. You can just pay for it outright yourself. Save if you've saved and you can pay for it yourself. Adoption loans. Okay, so you can there are loans, and I believe, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I want to say there are adoption loans that come at a lower interest rate than what would be a typical traditional loan for other things. So don't quote me on that, but I do believe I've heard that in my journeys in this space.
Sure.
You can do grants. There are grants you can apply for, which is essentially like a scholarship if you're going to school, right? If you're going to college and you apply for scholarships, it could be a grant to help fund this. I know there are a lot of grant organizations out there that do that. Fundraise, a lot of creative ways to fundraise. So that is where I kind of want to settle for the rest of the conversation, because there are a lot of creative ways to fundraise. And I know y'all did that for your adoption.
Yes.
So let's talk about that. We've talked about this in a previous episode, but I kind of want to start from the beginning. Tell us why you guys did that and what you chose to fundraise and how it went.
Yes.
Because it's a little bit of a journey.
So I will circle back to, you can apply for grants, and there's all kinds of ways to get money. Like a lot of people's workplaces will match or donate to your fund if you are adopting. So be sure you're doing your due diligence and your research. We don't really want to list off a bunch of places to get grants because it's constantly changing.
Correct.
So Google it. Google your area. Google
agency should
grant.
help you with that as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
But when it comes to fundraising, you can get so creative. There are a million ways to fundraising, and I know that it feels daunting. I know that it can feel discouraging or intimidating, but it really doesn't have to be. And if you're a creative person, and even if you're not a creative person, it's a fun way to get creative and really pull in your family, your friends, your community. There are a plethora of ideas. So I will go through a lot of the ideas that we did, and I'll go through our fundraising story. And then I know that you have friends and you have different ideas that ways. You can add on to there as well.
Yeah.
So our story is, we did not have the money to adoption. It is expensive. And we knew that fundraising was going to have to be the way that we go about it. The funding, like I mentioned before, was really Tim's biggest concern.
Oh, right.
We were a one-income family. We were parenting 3 children. I was a stay-at-home mom. He worked for a local church and had a couple of side jobs. And so funding this adoption was very intimidating and scary.
That was his biggest holdback.
Yes. Yeah. And so the way that we kind of started the process was, someone was using a GoFundMe online. They were a musician and they were raising funds to make an album. And I said, babe, look at this. This girl is making a musical album. She's got a GoFundMe, and people are giving money to this because they love her music and they believe in her. I said, I really, truly believe that if we can put ourselves out there, which is scary, and I think that's the first
So
part
scary.
of fundraising.
Asking for money always is scary.
If we can put ourselves out there, I really think a lot of our family and friends are going to rally around us and support us, and that we can do this. And that is the biggest step. It's putting yourself out there and saying, hey, we would love to adopt. It's our plan to adopt, and it's expensive. And will you help us? That is intimidating. That is scary.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels yucky, but I want to be here to tell you that it's not.
Yeah.
You're not a yucky person for saying this is what we want, and there's a gap, and we would love for you to have the opportunity to fill it, because that is what it is for people. I can also promise you, people do want to do that. There are so many people that
they
are
want to
looking,
support a good cause. They want to be a part of something.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
They're looking for something to be a part of. They're looking for a great place to donate money and to give. So many people, everyone you meet, if you ask them, do you want to be generous? They will say yes. Some might have an excuse of why they can't be at that moment, but most people really do love being generous and love giving back. So being able to kind of put down the pride, I will say it's kind of prideful sometimes, that holds us back from putting ourselves out there, and put down any doubt or fear and just say, we're going to put ourselves out there.
It is very exposing to do that. It feels very exposing to do that. But y'all, I mean, I feel like GoFundMe was relatively new. It really wasn't quite out there, if I'm remembering the timeline of it right. So you guys kind of hit in a really good sweet spot too, in it feeling a new, fresh way for people to give. I know people still have GoFundMes, and people should still
and we didn't use GoFundMe, but
it
is a site that some people will use.
Okay, you use that one.
We ended up using one that was called Caring Bridge.
Okay.
And then there are so many, though. There are lots
like
of
Helping
sites.
Hands, or there's
So you could even Google around and do your research on what type of fundraising platform you would like to give to. I would say do your research on that if you are not, I feel like it's good to use a fundraising platform. You don't want to necessarily ask people to Venmo you money. If you want to talk about feeling sticky or yucky, that kind of gives people a sticky or yucky feeling, like, hey, just Venmo me. And I know the heart behind it, because you don't want to pay fees or whatever, but that is something to look into. A lot of these nonprofit type giving centers will charge little to no fees for you to use their fundraising platform, and they receive that money through different ways, like ads or different ways. So do your research there and due diligence on what platform you're starting with. But after that, get creative. And I think number one, it is okay to just ask. Just ask. Put it out there on Facebook. Put it on Instagram or TikTok.
Just
or
make
whatever
people
you
aware
use.
of what's going on in your life, and I think they'll be like, "Hey, this is awesome." Let's
It's okay
to
just ask. Hey, we're raising. If you guys would like to donate some money to our adoption, that's great. And then get creative. Things that we did.
This is so cool what y'all did.
We worked with a lot of people in our community that we knew had small businesses, people that sell, the nails that you like, or they sell Mary Kay, or they are a small business in the community. If they can partner with you in their business and give a certain amount of proceeds,
like Tupperware party, all of those things, all of those things.
Or even like our local, there was a restaurant called Taco Mac. Like if you could, on a certain night a week, they would give anybody that came a certain percentage of the proceeds. Get involved in your community and small businesses in your community. For us, we had like a Stella and Dot jewelry party. Different ways that small business could promote their products, but then they were giving us a percentage of the sales that they made that night. And it was a really great way.
Bit helps.
And it was really fun to see friends and family come and they would, buy jewelry and know that they're giving back. And people really do love to be generous. Another thing is, like I've said before, like I'm creative. So I tapped into my own personal skills. I created artwork, and then I also created these like growth charts. So I just went to Home Depot and got the planks of wood that are like 6 foot by like
8 inches or something.
Something like that. And then I stained them different stains, and I turned them into rulers so that you could hang them on your wall. And as your kid grows, you mark it. They're so cute. We still have ours in our home.
Cute.
And it's actually how I announced our adoption too. I was like, our family is growing and we're selling growth charts.
So cute.
And so I was able to, it cost me maybe $10 to $12 to make one, and I would sell them for about 40 to 50, depending on if I asked for them. They would want them personalized or look a certain way, and I would accommodate. And I sold over 100 of those. We even had a local, like for Labor Day and Memorial Day, our town would have where you could like rent a tent and set up a booth
and sell them.
So I made a ton. I made, I think, 20 or 30 of them, took them to the booth, set them up, and sold them. And so that one day was a day that we were able to acquire a lot of money for our adoption.
That is so clever.
Yeah. So get creative. There are so many different ways that you can fund your adoption. And then I will say we were also sharing our story. And I would love to share how we like finished up funding our adoption through sharing our story.
I think you totally should. No, I think you totally should.
Because I feel like that is part of putting your fundraising out there. So I had worked so hard hosting parties, making artwork, making the growth charts. And then we also just had online where people would give. And I was also at that time like blogging, but you could do this on your Facebook, on your Instagram, any kind of platform that you use social media for. And I did a post and I was like, oh my goodness, we're only $2,700 away from fully funding our adoption. And I didn't even ask for money in that post. I just posted it out there.
Like an update.
Just an update of like, hey guys, thank you so much for anybody that has given, whether you've bought a product from us or anything that you've done. Thank you, because we are so close. And we needed to raise $25,000. So I'm talking, we've raised a lot of money. We're only $2,700 away. And it just kind of left it out there.
Kind of like a thank you, everybody.
Yeah. And so lo and behold, someone reached out and they said, my sister wants to reach out to you. And we were like, okay. So we exchanged phone numbers and they wanted to just call us. They were like, okay, they just called us on the phone and they said, hey, we know you through this person and we saw your post that you were $2,700 away. I know that we don't know you, but we just really felt like when we read your post that we needed to pay off your adoption. And they said, tell us whatever money you have left because we want to write you a check tonight and mail it to you in the mail. And Tim and I were just on the couch, like our jaw. I was like, I don't even know you. Like, what's your name again?
Oh my gosh.
Just from a simple post of putting out there, we had $2,700
That's
left.
so encouraging because just to circle back to how daunting it is to like put it out there that you need the money, that you can afford it, that you need help, that this is what we're doing. Do you want to partner with us? And then a stranger, literal stranger says, hey, I want to make this happen. I love what you're doing. We're not adopting, but we want to support your journey.
Yes.
Like that is so cool.
Yes.
That is
so
awesome.
For anybody that's going through this time right now, this season of wondering how you're going to make it work, I just want to encourage you because if this is what the Lord's calling you to, it's going to happen. He's going to provide.
Yep.
The money will come. And can I also say that at the end of the journey, the money really doesn't matter when you have your baby. Like money is money, but
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if you can get courageous and you can really like get creative and be bold enough to do these things, then you wouldn't even need the loan because I know loans can be scary. Not a deterrent.
Right.
Not a deterrent should never deter you from following this calling. But I think it's encouraging how creative you can be.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I have friends who sell Color Street, the nails. I have friends who sell all of those. And so just partnering with, hey, would you want to partner with me? I'm doing this thing. Oh yeah, great. Everybody wants to be a part of something cool.
Yes.
Everybody wants to be a part of something cool. So
and
it's
it's
awesome.
in it for them too, because then they can promote their business to a whole new audience. So don't feel like you're
being greedy.
Yes. Yeah. You're providing an opportunity.
Yeah.
So share some more ideas that you've heard that we didn't even think of.
So I've known people who have said, okay, we're gonna do a garage sale. We're gonna go through our house. We're going to get rid of all this stuff and everything we make from the garage sale, we're going to put, right? That seems like a simple way. Something I honestly wouldn't think of, but they've thought of this. And then they got the word out there that they were doing a garage sale. Well, their neighborhood got on board and was like, we want to do this too. So all of their neighbors donated all of their things, or they set up their own garage sale, but everybody's proceeds came together. And this particular friend of mine, just like your story, they needed like, I want to say maybe it was like, I'm going to throw a number out there, like $4,000 left, right? And they're like, okay, we need $4,000, move to this next step. We need to pay for this thing. They got exactly the amount they needed from doing that.
Isn't that crazy?
Isn't that wild? Yeah. So just doing the garage sale, getting your neighbors on board. Everyone has stuff in their house to get rid of.
Right?
Lord have mercy.
It seems like a win-win to
literally-
declutter and raise money for an adoption.
It's literally junk. And then those who are buying stuff at the garage sale, they understand the purpose of what you're doing. Hey, that's not $5. I'll give you $10 for that, right? You know how that
Right.
works. Yeah. So
Yes.
just like giving to a cause.
Putting up signs and saying all the proceeds are going to go to an adoption instead of keeping it a secret.
Exactly. Putting yourself out there.
Mhm.
You didn't have to make that post to give everybody an update, but you didn't know who wanted to give to something. And I mean, that's what we say about Funding Love too, and reaching new donors is like, we know there are people out there who want to support what we're doing. We just haven't reached them yet. Right.
Mhm.
So it's finding those people, because so many people want to give back, give to a good cause, keep giving forward, paying it forward. And you just got to get it out there. It's the same thing with your adoption, because your adoption is just as important as everybody else's. Your journey is just as important. So don't feel like by you doing a GoFundMe or you doing any sort of fundraising, it's you saying that you're better or you need this more than somebody else.
Mhm.
It's just you putting yourself out there saying, this is where we are. Do you want to jump on board or not? So, that I think it's encouraging to think outside the box. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. I think that's the bottom line in this
Yes,
episode.
I think so.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know our episodes are all different, lengths. Some are longer, some are shorter, but I think it's really easy to just wrap this one up by saying, yes, you can. Like, just live in that positive mindset of like anything is possible. And I know that the numbers on adoption can seem so daunting, but I promise that if you work hard for it and you get creative and you get vulnerable and honest, I truly believe that you can make this work for your family.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's awesome. Thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah,
honestly, I think it's going to help somebody. And thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Funding Love Adoption Podcast. We'll see you all next week. Cheers.
Bye.